Next fight, we're looking at Vinc Pichel versus Mark Madsen. This is one where I'm having a hard time getting a strong read, but I do think I think it's a cool fight. I think it's an interesting fight. It could be a fun matchup. These guys both have pretty good striking output. Madsen throws more strikes and lands more strikes statistically. Their striking accuracy and striking defense are both pretty close to each other within like a couple of percentage points. One thing that does concern me here, Madsen has 60% takedown accuracy, and Pichel only has 25% takedown defense. Madsen has 31% control time against his opponents, and Pichel has been controlled 19% of the time. Madsen has been controlled 0% of the time so far in his UFC fights. So, I mean, obviously Madsen is an Olympic-level wrestler. Obviously has put together, a more full mixed martial arts game at this point. He's got some striking. He throws pretty hard. Not a great striker by any means. Definitely more of a wrestler, but so it's very likely looking at that. Madsen has that 60% takedown accuracy. Pichel only has 25% takedown defense. So I think it's reasonable to assume that Madsen will get takedowns in this fight. Madsen, I see it almost the way I broke down the McMahon-Hossa fight. Like Madsen will probably get takedowns early if he wants them. Probably win round 1. Probably get takedowns in round 2. But the thing is, Madsen is a guy who can start to slow down, and Pichel is one of those fighters who actually tends to get better as the fight goes on. We'll sometimes see him have his best round in round 3. He'll come alive. He'll get his second wind. He'll be putting out more output in round 3 than he was in round 1. So this is one of those fights where I don't mind looking at, once the props are out on my book, I don't mind looking at Pichel to finish in round 3 here, because I think, Madsen is probably going to have success early, but especially if he's doing a lot of wrestling, because even though Pichel doesn't have the greatest takedown defense, he does have a pretty good get-up game, and he isn't a guy who likes to settle in on his back. I mean, if you get a takedown on him, he is a guy who's working to get up. So if he is able to get up and make Madsen continue to take him down, continue to work for those takedowns, I think we could see Madsen tire out. And so if Madsen's able to win the first 2 rounds and then he tires out in the third, if it does go to decision, I do think Madsen by decision is a reasonable outcome here. But if he ends up, tiring out a bit too much in round 3 and Pichel finds a second wind and is able to, and here's the thing, Vinc Pichel is a decent wrestler too. Obviously he doesn't have the wrestling on paper that Madsen does, but Vinc Pichel has decent MMA wrestling, and it's not out of the question that as we get into round 3, when Madsen is tiring out and Pichel is kind of finding his energy more and more, we could even see Pichel get takedowns on Madsen. That certainly is not impossible here. So, I don't know. As far as a bet here, I don't mind looking at fight goes the distance. Besides the possibility, like I said, of Madsen just like tiring out and Pichel finishing him in the end, which I don't think is all that likely. I do think this fight probably goes to decision. As for a bet, I think this fight is potentially a good live betting spot, because, like I said, I think Madsen will have success early and then could fade later. And those are the spots that are really good to look for live betting, because, obviously if a guy dominates round 1, then you're going to get a better line on the other guy going into round 2 because he's losing the fight at that point. But if you know that info, if you know, okay, this guy tends to gas and this guy tends to do better as the fight goes on, you might get a good line on Pichel here. Another thing I noticed watching the tape is Madsen does like to take the center and control the pace, and Pichel does tend to allow himself to be pressured and sort of circle along the outside, which is something that can, that can look good for Madsen to the judges. But yeah, I don't like a pre-flop bet here. I like to just keep an eye on the live lines here, and potentially bet Pichel, especially if Madsen is using a lot of energy early.